Sean, first of all, what's the team news ahead of Boxing Day?
We should be getting back to somewhere close, although this season, not as bad as last season, but every time I say that, we get a couple drop. But we'll see. Aaron Lennon's off ill today, so hopefully he'll recover. A lot of bugs around. The lads who have been struggling a bit, Barnes, and them come through okay. That was good. Westy, Woody, they all came through the game. Jeff obviously misses through suspension. Johan got 90 minutes in, which was great and felt good. And he started up well, so that's good fitness-wise. We're kind of getting back to where we want to be. And obviously you need it with the games coming up just over this little next window.
Time of year it is. It's nice to sort of reflect on the 12 months gone. We were just talking before you came in, where this club was this time last year and obviously what happened on Boxing Day then. How satisfied are you that you look back at the 12 months since Boxing Day last year and how far the team's progressed?
Yeah, I think we're pleased in the sense that obviously it was a big turnaround last season, and that had to occur. Players deserve a lot of credit for that. And then going into this season, it's been slightly different. I think I mentioned all the way through pre-season, you know that, and the early part of the season, that there was a different feel to the group, a kind of a more urgent sort of like a view of the reality of the season before, where we all nearly found ourselves in real trouble. Well, certainly did, and then how we turned that around. So it was almost like an edge to the pre-season, the way we went about our business, the way we went about in the training ground and in the games, and that's followed on into the season. A couple of hiccups, but that happens in the Premier League without a doubt. It's hard to stop that from happening. But other than that, generally a decent level of performance. We weren't as good on Saturday by any means, by the way, but ground out a real important win. So I think a mixture of mentality, performance levels, and what we do well, even when we're under pressure, is grind out when we need to, grind out results. And we certainly did that the weekend.
And just as importantly, I guess, back-to-back clean sheets now as well.
Yeah, I think it's helpful. I think that's 7, this season, which is a good sign. It's not easy to keep clean sheets in the Premier League. And after the game, they said about the no shots on target in 2 games, which is even more tricky. Difficult to carry that on, but clean sheets are a big part of it. It's an important factor in football, and if you get that right, you've often got an increased chance of being successful.
Let's look at Everton then. Obviously, Carlo Ancelotti's been officially unveiled as the manager this morning. Something that comes back into the Premier League with great experience, a track record of winning things. It's 3 days enough really for him to put his stamp on this Everton side?
No, I think even with his fantastic background and what he's achieved at many different clubs, I think 3 days is not quite enough. I think you want more than that. Excuse me, to change things overall. On the other hand, you usually get a response from the players, whether it's a bit more detail, a bit more of a sharp eye on the challenge, or physically. There's usually a response of some description. But no, he's, without a shadow of a doubt, amongst the many big managers around in the Premier League, he's certainly now one of them, with his past and what he's achieved in the game and the teams that he's had. Different challenge, maybe. Everton, I don't know. It'd be interesting to know if there was a remit, what that is for a manager of, someone's regular Champions League, obviously, and won all sorts across Europe. It's an interesting one. But he must have gone in there with the thought that he can make it a very, very successful place.
What does it do for the profile of the Premier League that you have somebody of his stature coming back to managing it?
Well, I don't think it's lacking in profile generally, but I think the big name managers add to it. I think there's been a lot more. I've noticed the change in my time in the Premier League. There's been a lot more emphasis on managers the last few years, certainly the last probably 3 years. I think a lot more emphasis on the managers than there was before. It used to be a lot more about the players. So I think the level of, the quality of the managers, in the Premier League certainly rises when people like him come into it.
Just finally from me, obviously you've heard about what happened at Tottenham yesterday. Gary Neville had his thoughts afterwards. Even given all the protocol that's been put in place now to deal with racism and things thrown at players, if one of your players came to you rather than going through the protocol and said, I've had enough and walking off, does a manager have to back him now in this day?
I think it's a tricky one. I only caught up with the news one. I had a family Christmas party yesterday, so that certainly took precedent in my life with my wife and children, you can imagine, being a dad. Apart from a football manager, I am actually a dad. But no, I didn't see the moment. I've heard a little bit about it. And generally, I think we all know, that it doesn't live anywhere in life, let alone in football. It's so complicated. I think people, generally people's views on it. Well, if you put it in, it's the thing that seems to be occurring over the last couple of years. Leaving the pitch, staying on the pitch, and all them things. I mean, I think it's so tricky. I think certain players would demand one thing, certain players demand something else. And I think I haven't been tasked with it. I think it is a tricky one, and all we can do is continue to educate the players if anything is said or anything untoward, and I think fans continue to get educated as well. Not just in football, by the way, in life. I think it's completely different now than what it was when I was playing and what it was when I was a child. Life's completely different. All the education streams, all the messages, the right education, the right messages, are all out there now. So I think overall, I think the game's working hard to get rid of any kind of racism, and that's all we can do.
Thank you.
Sean, you mentioned the clean sheets. What does it do for the team when you get back-to-back clean sheets in the manner that you've got in the last 2 games?
Well, I think it's interesting you use the word the manner. Saturday we were way off our performance, but the clean sheet and all the hard sides of the game, all the hard yards, all the inches, all the details in the tactical organisation for the team to try and have a foothold, as I call it. If you're not playing well, you need a base to work from. And I think that got us a win in the end. And finally found a key moment of quality. Previous games, I said after the game, we just won back-to-back 3-0s, a few weeks ago, not so long ago, and very good performances, very strong performances, very good in every way. So our challenge is a consistent one, and that's finding a way to get points on the board, finding a way to get wins, because it's very difficult if you just rely on one style and expect to be successful in the Premier League unless you are the absolute superpowers, the absolute elite. That's how I see it. Probably unlikely that, say, Man City are going to radically change their style or adapt too much. They do adapt, but not radical adaptation from one game to the other. We found some games, if they're getting away from us, we have to rely on the organisation and the will and the demand of the game to get something. Other games, when we're playing very well, then we can look after ourselves and we can win games. So I think clean sheets are a part of that. I think they are important, and I think the fact that we've got 2 back-to-back is good, of course. We equally know, we're not naive, it doesn't owe us anything going forward, and we will have to play better in the games coming up.
Do you think about adapting to accommodate Jay Rodriguez? Because I imagine it's quite difficult to leave him on the bench when he contributes.
No, we don't have to adapt to accommodate. We bring players who we think fit the profile of the club, first of all and often financially. They have to fit into that. But equally about what we're about what they can deliver, about how they can improve themselves and us. And he'll be part of that thinking.
Just on Everton, they'll be given a boost by Ancelotti, but do you think they've been given a confidence lift from the form that they showed under Duncan Ferguson?
Well, I think a change of feel. I think, whenever a different manager, even in this case a caretaker manager goes in, a change of feel, a change of voice, a change of rhetoric, all them things, they all add to a player's thoughts and how it changes things. It's not just the tactical profile of a team. Now the manager's been appointed, it'll be interesting to see how that morphs into whatever the new manager wants. So, they've had a few managers over the last few years and a group of players who have been put together from each manager. And now I'm sure he'll be looking to bring his style and his understanding and put it into the team and form what he wants to be his team. And I think that's how it'll look. So will it have an effect? I would imagine it will, of some description. Our job is to make sure that we look after ourselves and deliver a performance and one that we think can get a win.
Have you ever come across Ancelotti before? Have you ever met him?
Once, actually. Malky Mackay was manager at Watford. We played him in the Cup. And they were far too strong at that stage. I can't remember what the score was, but it was 4 or 5. And the funny, he was actually quite amusing afterwards because they had the land of the giants. I don't know, you remember that Chelsea side he had were massive. And he said to us after, why have you got small players? And I was like, well, budgets are different. It's fair to say. I remember Malky saying, budgets are different. We haven't can't always have the riches to go out and get players. So we thought that was quite amusing, but not in a patronising way. He just genuinely was asking. I said, well, if it was that easy at Watford at that time, we weren't exactly splashing money everywhere. So that was a funny little quip after a game.
It's an exciting challenge for you, though, isn't it, to face a manager?
Yeah, it's not. I don't think of it like that. We've been asked this before. Premier League's not a level playing field. When you get asked about pitting your wits and all that, it's not a level playing field. So you're pitting your wits against your team, against theirs, not against the managers. No, that I'm not. I'm trying to get our team to win games. That's all I focus on. Certainly, I don't. If we beat one of the teams with one of the top managers or what's seen as the top managers, I just take the result and move forward. You know, I class everyone in the top division or the top division of English football as being a top manager, so you wouldn't be there. So they deserve all the respect that I've got from every position, not just the big guys.
Just finally, Sean, January transfer window, do you envisage being busy in the
Massively.
market?
I think will be exciting. I think there'll be loads of moves. I think it'll be chaos. There'll be so many bodies coming into this place, it'll be ridiculous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Afternoon, Sean. Happy Christmas.
And to you.
Just looking back on the Bournemouth game, obviously it was one that wasn't free-flowing and didn't kind of get a flow going because of the number of fouls in the game. Just what's that like as a manager in the technical area? Do you find yourself speaking to the fourth official a bit more and just sort of saying, can we...
Yeah, I thought it was a confusion when I said afterwards. I don't know, you know, I'm forever confused by the view of a game now. You know, I mentioned afterwards, one of my many obsessions in football is diving. It's happened again Saturday, 2 big dives, nothing given. Fans seem to just not even bother. They don't mind it seems. And yet if there's one physical challenge, it's like chaos. And I you know, it's another thing that it worries me about the game actually, because I can't see that. I can't see how cheating is okay, but just a good physical challenge is not okay. That's a bit worrying. But it was a strange game. There were so many fouls. And I didn't think half of them were fouls. You know, it's just a strange game. It's probably the weakest football match I've ever seen. It was just like, I've just never seen as many fouls over things that weren't fouls. I just found it not good or bad, just weird, to be honest. Just an odd anomaly sort of game, it seemed.
Do you go and make that point to the fourth official then during the game or the linesman? And
well, we were trying to. I mean, there was, you know, all the stick that, you know, I get as a manager from the fans and all that. I was actually agreeing with some of the stuff when it went for us. I was actually going, how's that a foul? It'd never been a foul, you know. So it wasn't just a one-sided view. I thought the whole game was a peculiar one. It just seemed every challenge was going to be a foul, even before it was going to be a foul type thing. But hopefully that won't continue. I think the flow of football matches is ideal when it's just clean, simple, everyone gets on with it. And it wasn't that kind of game. But if you think about it, there wasn't hardly a bad challenge in it, really. So it's a really odd game.
Looking ahead to Everton, obviously we mentioned it earlier, the position you're in this season compared to 12 months ago after playing Everton on Boxing Day. Does that sort of recovery and then the start you've made to this season give you as much pride as maybe promotions and things like that? Given
Definitely. I said at the end of last season, it's a strange thing in football because everyone would probably, to the current day, probably see the fact we finished 7th, got into Europa, etc., as being, you know, like my best time as manager, if you like. Not so much Burnley fans, because I think they enjoyed the promotion and stuff like that, but I think generally people would see that as a big success, which it was. But turning it around last season, which obviously is not just me, the players have been magnificent, and my staff, but turning it around is definitely my biggest achievement as a manager. But it involves a whole group of people to make that happen. And it's gone now, but that's something I will reflect on. I already do as being my biggest achievement last season.
And is that as much to do with the fact that obviously you're in a tough spot and you then have tough decisions to make? It's perhaps a bit easier.
Yeah, and it's people are clambering for you. I've said it many times. People are the hardest thing in management. People clamber for you to change everything, and sometimes it's hard, but the right thing to change nothing or very little. And I think we stuck to our guns last season, and we found a way of the team operating, reminded them of the simplicity of how we operate it, and delivered a very strong turnaround, both in performances. I thought very good last season, the second half of the season, both in goals as well, number of goals scored, clean sheets and points. And I think that's obviously a very healthy mixture.
And just on Johan, is Boxing Day too soon for him? Is he coming to the thinking given Jeff's
He certainly like to think he'd get involved in the squad. Now, whether he's in it literally, but he'll certainly be with us. And then take it from there. But he's looked sharp in training. I'm delighted he got his 90 minutes in. I spoke to him, he said he felt great. One of our staff went down and said that he looked good, he looked fit and well. So yeah, it's another body coming back to full fitness, another, you know, someone who's done very well for us historically. And then he's got to fight his way back into the group, of course.
I guess timely given the number of fixtures that are coming up and Jeff's suspension in a position.
Yeah, it's a funny thing, all the fixture thing. Apart from obviously Liverpool, you know, they've got mad amounts of fixtures, but generally, it's the 2 in 3 days. That's the thing that changes it. You know, 2 in 3 days is very difficult. And the next one comes along and you think, well, you know, in the Championship, we used to play Saturday, Tuesday, virtually what felt like every week. So it's just the 2 in 3 days. That does put extra demand, extra pressure on the body, of course. And when you've got people who have been injured coming back, you know, you think, can they handle the 2 games, etc., etc. But generally, I don't like to over-egg it. At the end of the day, it's 2 football matches. You'll be all right, you know, if you're a footballer. Just crack on, get on with it.
Yeah, I agree.
Thanks.